Alrighty, what is up guys? Welcome to a very brief tutorial and a very simple beginner tutorial on GNU manipulation system, otherwise known as GIMP. You can see it's an image manipulation program right up here where I'm gesturing my mouse right now. Okay, so this is the version, let me see right here. Yeah, GIMP 2.10.14, and I will already have put that in the title, but just in case you need to hear again, 2.10.14. When you open up the app, this is the interface you're going to get. It's not that similar to Photoshop. There's a lot of differences in the actual user interface here. But as far as the actual image manipulation goes, it is kind of similar to Photoshop. There are a couple of major differences. It's not quite as powerful as Photoshop. To me, at this point, it might be a little bit easier to use just because I have more experience with using it than Photoshop. But I'm going to show you just basic interface and a couple of things that you can use on here. One of the things about GIMP is that in order to draw or do anything in here, you have to open an image in this. It will not let you like just create an image or a canvas. So I'm going to go over to pictures and I keep just a white picture here. It's a little bit long. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is to crop a picture. One of the things that you can do is go up here to the rectangle select button, pick a portion of your picture, ta-da, and if you go up to layers up here, your picture has come out in a layer. So if you put crop to selection, it will crop to whatever selection you have here, and you'll see that you have a blank space over here. Now the layer itself has cropped, but the image has not. So what you are going to do for the image cropping is you're going to want to go over here to crop to selection, and then the entire image will crop to the selection. Because what was happening there is that your layer was this, but the entire image had not actually cropped. So like the layer was laying over the top of the rest of the image. And if you don't quite understand everything I'm saying in here, it'll become clear as you start to use this a little bit more. Okay, so this is your zoom over here. I just put it at 50% because that's a nice comfortable level, but you can put it at any of these settings, or you can type in your own setting to make it comfortable. There's also, you can put it in pixels, inches, millimeters, points, picas, centimeters, meters, feet, yards, and whatever the that stuff is, I don't know. But anyway, your rulers show up over here. Now just look at a couple tools. There's also an ellipse select tool. There is a free select tool. We just selected in a rectangle, but if you want to crop out certain parts, there is a free select tool that you can select with. I don't know why you would want to make a selection like the one that I just made, but hey. Fuzzy select tool, select a continuous region on the basis of color. That's a little bit like selecting a color range on Photoshop, and then you can select by one specific color. So for example, if I was drawing in red here, hold on. Select all. There we go. If I was drawing in red here, and then just started to draw in yellow for a little while, and then I just started to draw in purple, I have this nice piece of abstract art here, and I were to go over to the color select, and I hit that color, it will only select the red regions, or the purple regions, or the yellow regions, which is very useful because if you at any point want to select a certain color or a background and simply delete it, you can press clear or delete, and it will delete only that color that you've selected. So let's just go ahead and do that to all, because we aren't going to need these random blobs of color, I don't think. Select by color. You can also access select by color in select and then by color up here. So let's just clear it all up. Okay. What are the other kind of tools? Scissor select. Select shapes using intelligent edge fitting. Foreground select. These are similar to some of the things you're going to find in Photoshop, like subject select. They are not as powerful, however. Let me see if I can try to find an image real quick. Now here's an example of the scissor select tool in this little picture that I found here. We're going to start at the top and come down here. As you can see, it's kind of worked around the foreground. And the same thing all the way around the picture at like different points here. And let me see. You can see it's getting a little bit confused because it's not quite as powerful as the Photoshop select thing It hasn't quite gotten to that point yet. It's okay. But it's just not quite as powerful as that. So if we're gonna say crop, let's say crop layer to selection. Well, hold on. There we go. Layer, crop to selection. So yeah. GIMP also has the habit of doing this, just square selecting anyway. So honestly, selecting by color and then clearing it off is probably one of the only ways that you're going to get things done in this program, just because the subject selection is not very powerful in it. Okay, so let's go back to blank real quick here. Also, if you notice up here, this says the different images or tabs that you can use in this. So we've gotten these tools. This is the pass tool, and it's very good if you want to do exact line work. As you can see over here, this is the tool options bar right over here. We have design, edit, and move. So if you click the edit really quick, then it's going to allow you to move these in sort of to create more anchors and move the lines in sort of an angled pattern. And then if you turn off polygonal, then it'll allow you to make curved lines and put nice curves in your lines. This is important if you're doing line work that's very very solid and it'll be very neat. You can simply put a sketch into the image manipulation program. I'm not going to do that right now. I might do it in another video, but you can simply put a sketch into the image manipulation program and use these paths to outline the sketch and line work and make your line work very neat and nice. And then you can say stroke path, and you can put different properties on your path, stroke, solid color, pattern. You can choose what tool you want to do. You can emulate the brush dynamics on there. For example, if I wanted to do paintbrush, and let's put a brush dynamic on this real quick. The paintbrush, we're going to emulate the brush dynamics, and we're going to stroke it. Now, as you guys can see, if we select all again or get off the paths tool, what we've got here is a nice line, and the line tapers off at the end because it was emulating the brush dynamics, which was pressure size. It's just a nice line that comes, if you emulate the dynamics, you're going to get nice, neat, very well thought out planned line work, or you can do it by hand. Either way, the brush tool provides you that option. Color Picker is pretty much the exact same thing as Color Picker is in Paint or pretty much any other manipulation system. Zoom tool, same way. Measure tool, you can measure distances and angles. Move tool, you can move layers and different stuff like that. You can see I can move this layer all over the image, but we don't want to. Let's see, the alignment tool, line and range layers over other objects. I only have one layer right now, so there's that. Let's see, what else do we have here? Crop tool, remove edges and areas from a layer. So you can pretty much see, you can crop the layer here. So, ta-da. And then you can also have some other manipulations over here, like the current layer, allow growing, span from center, different things like that. Unified transform tool, you can transform the layer or selected path. This is sort of similar to distort, or a free cage transform that you would find on Photoshop. Let's see, let me draw something on here real quick. Hold on. So I'm gonna draw, hold on. Okay, this will also create, I'll go over floating selections later, but I had to do something right there. Okay, we're gonna take the free cage, which is not really a free cage. You can rotate, you can go back and forth, you can distort your picture. However, this is distorting it in such a way that it is going outside of the image boundaries. As you can see, this is our image because we cropped it a little bit earlier into a weird shape. So if I go back and select another tool, it's going to show this not as in the image. If I go back and select this, it should show it again, but just like know that just because you're distorting it outside of the image boundaries doesn't. These are some transform tools that are independent of each other. This is the rotate. the scale, hello. Okay, there we go. There are a couple images on this. The selection, you can choose whether you're going to scale a selection, a layer, a path, or the entire image in and of itself. So I could scale the entire, just the image boundaries and not necessarily the layer boundaries. So let's see, what is this? Shear tool, shear layer selection or path. And that's just shearing the layer to the actual image size. So if I were to take this layer, here, let's scale the layer. Okay, hold on. And I believe that would be shearing the layer to the image size, but I may be wrong on that. I may be completely wrong on that. Okay, here's the layer tool. This is the path we drew a little bit earlier. And as you can see by moving this around, we can deform it. We can change the angle on it. A lot of different things that you can do with this. And again, that's the paths. If we wanted to do that to the layer, we could do that. Change the angle, scale, all sorts of different things that you can do with these transform tools. It's almost like we're taking it and flipping it around like a sheet of paper. Let's see, we also have the perspective tool. And I think this is just basically a more powerful version of the tool that we just used. This is to change the perspective. Hold on, let's... Yeah, because we transformed it in the way we did. There's that. But you can look and see. Okay, so let's open blank again because we've messed this blank up to the point of no return. Where are my own files? Here we go. Okay. So we have our nice blank again. Got the flip tool. That's pretty straightforward. Hold on, let's exit out of this real quick. So we create our nice piece of awesome abstract art, and we want to flip it around. And that's pretty much what that does. Or you could go vertical and you could flip it around that way. So yeah, that's pretty much what that does. Cage transform. You guys can pretty much guess what that does. It's a cage transform. So yeah. Hold on. There we go. And you can see I've taken a selection and moved around the cage transform. It may not be quite what you expect there when you hear cage transform, but GIMP is a little bit different. Warp, deforming with different tools. I think I've already warped enough in this. The text tool, it's a very simple text tool. Don't expect too much from it. It just creates text. It's not too much to look at. One of the things I don't like too much about GIMP is that its text tools doesn't really provide as many options as I would like. But it's there. Also, one of the things about this, if you want a font, you pretty much need to know what font you want because you can't really browse fonts efficiently on this. For example, I have to type the font. I can't like have a pull down menu and see what fonts I want. So you do have to like type the font. A lot of times I just like type the first letter and then I just go over the stuff in that letter because I browse font. The fill tool here does exactly what a fill tool does. The gradient tool, let me see if we can clear off this image real quick. Select all. What you do is you take the first color here, your main color, and then you take your background color and you change it to another color, say like this. Let's make it a little lighter. And then you can choose what kind of a gradient you want from here. This is a pretty standard gradient. It says custom, but it's just from the settings I had on it a while ago. And what you do is you just take this, you click up in one corner, you go down, and it creates a nice little gradient for you. You can do this with any color, and there are several different kinds of gradients that you can do. Some of them are already pre-made, like browns here. There are some that will go with the colors that you want, and there are some that will just do a completely different color, like 4 bars, stuff like that. Incandescent, and a bunch of pre-made different settings on here that I think are really neat. Wood. The pencil tool and the paintbrush tool are pretty much exactly the same tool. I'm not exactly sure why they have a pencil and a paintbrush tool. But I don't mind. Everything you need for these tools is pretty much over here in the tool options, whatever brush you happen to need. Let me see. Whatever brush you happen to need, you can find over here. There are several different types of brushes. There may be a way to plug in more brushes into this. I'm not sure because I have not tried. But if you can find a way to plug in more brushes into this, more power to you. You can change, of course, the size, the aspect ratio, which makes the brush thinner or wider. The angle of the brush, which doesn't matter because we have circle, but you can change your brush angle. Here, let's get an actual significant angle change to this brush. Blah, blah, blah. And again, if you want to eliminate any of these things, just change them back to 0. So see if we change the angle on this brush. Hello. There we go. It just makes it angly, you know. You know how it is when your brush is angly. Spacing. If you want to make it to where your brush is more spaced out as it goes, to where it doesn't create one continuous line, but more like dots. I believe our spacing was at 41 because we have to add some texture. I think if you turn your spacing to 0, it's just going to pretty much give you more like a smooth line, which is fine for certain situations, but with a brush like this, you do want to make it look a little bit rougher. It's kind of what this brush is for. There's also hardness, which will make your brush like more, kind of hard to explain, but more opaque or more translucent on the sides. So if it's kind of like if you're like pushing down on a marker hard as opposed to pushing down on it soft. If you're pushing down on the marker hard, you're going to get more of a straight solid line, whereas if you're pushing down on it soft, the edge might be a little bit feathered off. And of course there's force here, which is pretty much exactly what I just said. Here's the dynamics bar. If you have a brush over here, let's say we have our circular brush again, and let's clear off everything once again. Let's fill up with a nice white background. That's not white. What did I do? Okay, here we go. You have this nice brush over here, and we'll put it up to where you guys can see it. This is a pressure size one. Hold on. I'm using a mouse right now, so the pressure size doesn't really matter that much. But here, let me switch over to my tablet. And also, this is one thing about GIMP. If you switch over to a tablet, all of a sudden, from a mouse, the settings will change as you change your piece of equipment. So just a heads up there. Okay. As you can see, the cursor has a little reticule around it, and it's not the exact size of the brush. But as I put pressure to the pen, the pressure goes down, up, down, and it makes it easy to do more exact line work and make your line work a whole lot quicker with those dynamics. There are several of them on here. There's basic dynamics where it just puts basic dynamics to it. I don't use this too often because it does have the opacity thing, which kind of annoys me. There's also pressure, opacity, confetti, which just creates like, woohoo, yay. Color from a gradient, so just like that. So you can see it starts off and then yeah, you can see what it's doing there. Let's see. And there's a whole bunch on here. Tilt angle, track direction, velocity tapering. If I go faster, it'll taper. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can play around with, and I'm not going to go over everything. But it's pretty much the same as the paintbrush and the pencil. There's the eraser, and it does exactly what it says. It erases. The eraser much depends on whether you have an alpha channel on your image. So for example, if I were to go back and if I were to open Blink again, there would be no alpha channel on it, so I believe the eraser would actually erase in the second color. That's right. So the eraser is erasing the color down here because I have no alpha channel, no other layers, it's just the image. But in this case, it is erasing into the checkered background, which means it's transparent. So it's like literally erasing the color, whereas opposed to this, it's just doing the color that's supposed to be merging into the background, which is indicated by this color that we chose here. So you do have to keep aware of that. The airbrush, it's an airbrush. I'm not exactly sure how that differs from the actual brush itself. This is the ink. It's basically, sorry, I lost my word there. It imitates a calligraphy pen, and you can have different shapes of the nib and stuff like that, so that's cool. My paintbrush allows you to do several different kinds of paintbrushes. Pixels, for example. Let's see. Pencils, acrylic, different things like that. It's not too different than the actual brush modes on there, but it does have, you know, a couple different things on there that you might want to try out. Light, for example. Nice little things on there. This is the clone. It should just simply clone different parts of the image onto each other. For some reason, it does not want to work right now. Let's see if it'll work on the other one. Select all. Not really sure what's going on there. The heel, which isn't going to work on this picture because this picture is a big mess right now. But it should just simply be able to heal different parts of an image if I had like a photograph here. Let me see if I can get a photograph and use some of these. This is a random Unis Honest photo that I took a while ago, so you can see what's going on here. Let's see, it will still not allow me to use the heel or the clone, but there's that. Let's just use this photo for the rest of the time. What do you guys think? A perspective clone? Very interesting, very interesting. Interesting, very interesting. Okay. Blur or sharpen, a smudgy tool, which will just basically smudge out the image, and then of course the dodge and burn tool. These are two very important tools. I can't believe I'm just skimming over these, but these will smudge images, which comes in handy when you're coloring and doing line work or anything like that. Here, let's undo the smudge. And then here's the dodge and burn tool, which basically just takes a color region inside of your brush and makes it darker or lighter, which is very important. So for example, if I wanted to go over here to Ethan and make the shadows on his face a little bit deeper. Let's see. He's a football player now. And of course I'm not trying too hard in this. But if I wanted to make the shadows a little bit deeper and maybe highlight, do something like that, then go over here to the smudgy tool and make it look a little bit more realistic. Yeah, this is not turning out exactly the way I pictured it in my mind when I decided to do this, but hey, you get the general idea. The dodge and burn tool is to create shadows and light, and the smudgy tool is to simply merge it into the other colors in the picture. So you get the general idea of that. And now Ethan looks like he's an auto mechanic or something. I don't know. Dodge and burn tool are also subject to the same mechanics as the brush and the paintbrush, so I can do like a pressure size if I want to on there and stuff like that, and the smudgy tool is the same way. These are extremely useful in coloring and doing graphic art and stuff like that, and they just become more useful. They just become more wonderful over time. I love these two things about GIMP. Okay, so that was a basic run over of all the tools on GIMP, but there's also more to see, I assure you. Over here on the bars we have view, we have image, layers, colors, tools, filters, windows. We already went over tools. Okay, so if we're actually manipulating an image, say we have this image here, there's lots of things that we can do with it. Let's just start with colors. You can balance out the colors using cyan, magenta, yellow, and do all the different colors in like that. And a lot of these are going to be more of the same. Color temperature, you can just sort of merge this around depending on how you want the color's temperature to look like. Hue, chroma, hue, saturation, and these are just different things you can play out. Hue, lightness, saturation, just different things that you can play at and manipulate on your image, depending on what you want your image to look like. So there's lots of things that you can do with the colors in here. I could invert the colors and make it look like heaven. I don't know. Let's see. Value invert, make it look... I don't know what that looks like. There's also filters. There are several filters on here. If you want to blur, we can pixelize it, and then we can show how big we want it to be pixelized as. So this is good if you want to block out somebody in an image, or you just kind of want a pixely style look. There are all sorts of ways that you can blur. You can enhance by increasing the sharpness, red eye removal, noise reduction, high pass, different things like that. So if you wanted to sharpen the image and make it look even creepier than it already is. There we go. This is the image that you wanted to see today, wasn't it? We can also distort the image. Lens distortion. Make it look like a television if you want to. Edge, zoom. Good gravy. I'm having way too much fun with this. This is not why you guys signed up for this, but... Okay. This is the image that we're going to work with from now on. Noise. So if you really want to make this look like a cursed television program, you can. Here, let's see. What else do we have on noise? And, like, there's a gazillion of these that you can use. And it's like, I'm using a few of them just to give you guys some sort of a, idea of what you can use on this. But there's a gazillion different filters and things that you can use. So edge detect, generic, dilate, erode. You can do all sorts of things on this. You can put a gazillion filters on this and just keep going. Artistic, if you want to make something look more cartoony. That doesn't really look cartoony because we like just put a gazillion filters on it, but if you had a normal image and you would do that, you could do cartoon cubism. That's cubism. As you can see, like, you can't really see too much when you're using cubism, especially if you get too far into it. But that's one of the filters that you can use. Decor, you can add borders, a coffee stain perhaps. A coffee stain perhaps. Cancel. Hold on. Old photo if you want to. Rendering different things. And just all sorts of different things that you could do on here. The image itself, under image you're just going to find different ways that you can transform the image on a very base level. Transforming it, if we wanted to flip this around, somehow even creepier when it's flipped. You could scale the image. Of course we didn't actually do any scaling. You can change your view on here depending on what you want to see in your window. Like over here we have the layers bar and the different things like that, and over here we have the tools and the tool options. Yes, we've already been familiar with select. For some reason we are stuck on cubism right now. Hold on. Going over to the select tool, there we go. Okay, so I think we got stuck on cubism, which I don't think is really supposed to happen. Hold on, we are cropping to selection right now. Here we go, this is the picture that you guys wanted to see today. This is why you clicked on this video. Preferences, input devices, keyboard shortcuts. Input devices is where you're going to go to set up your tablet, different things like that. Obviously preferences, different things you want to see on there, options, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can play with down here, just depending on what you want your interface to look like. But that is a basic tutorial on how to use GIMP. And maybe I got a little bit more in depth into some of the stuff in here, but that's pretty much all you're going to need to know to get started. I was thinking about doing a tutorial on some of the line work and how to do that. So, but anyway, that is a just a basic tutorial on some of the stuff you might want to get started out on. If you like this, comment down below. If there's something I can improve, please do tell me in a constructive, polite way. But anyway, I will see you guys later, and if you want to watch any more of my videos, you can subscribe, ring the notifications bell, and I will see you later. Bye.